Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on the Ice ASTV. Sorry for the delay. Got to tell you, man, I'm super stoked to talk to this guy because he's an old pal of mine from Winnipeg. We've done a couple of games together back in the day. I believe it was Bell MTS Iceplex for a junior women's hockey league program a couple of years back. But nonetheless, Nolan Kowal has finally found his home again. This time it's in Estevan, Saskatchewan. And we're going to have him join us, talk about his passion behind the mic. He's now calling the games for the Bruins. Super stoked to hear him back behind the mic. He's going to fill us in on the journey to where he is now, how it feels, and more importantly, what's the vibe like in Estevan, because it's championship year for the Bruins. Perhaps they'll be in the finals. We'd love to see that happen. I know they would love to see it too in Estevan because, hey, rarely does it happen. But here on the ice, please welcome the voice of the Estevan Bruins, Nolan Kowal. And there he is, Nolan. Good evening. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Theo. Good to talk with you again. Thanks for having me on.
It's fantastic. First off, how impressive is it, or how stoked are you to be where you're sitting at right now?
Yeah, pretty excited. Obviously, it's a great opportunity here in Estevan, and it kind of came up pretty quickly earlier this summer. The chance to move out here to Saskatchewan. Still pretty close to the Manitoba border, I might add, but chance to come out here, call games in a season that's pretty exciting around here, obviously with the Centennial Cup, and obviously too just being back after a season last year across Junior A that was really wiped out essentially because of the pandemic. So very excited to be behind the mic, and I've got a few games under my belt, but we're really just getting started out here. So it's been a lot of fun so far.
A lot of fun so far. Let's get back in the Wayback Machine. Let's join Peabody for a couple of minutes here, Nolan. Junior Women's Hockey League, you and I did a couple of games, the Bell MTS Iceplex. If you don't recognize this gentleman, he's also was part of Sport Manitoba for our monthly sportscast bi-monthly. Tell us the journey to getting to where you are today and how you didn't lose sight of that golden light now that dawns a Bruins emblem.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, broadcasting, sports broadcasting was really, my first. It was a passion of mine, but it was really, in terms of career aspirations, it was really always at the forefront. And so, got the communications and broadcasting education first off, and then, got some good broadcasting experience in Winnipeg, and also with Sport Manitoba, just being in a sport environment with the podcast there and doing the show with you was a great experience as well. But play-by-play was always really what I wanted to do, and it's what I think I have a lot of ability with. And so I did, as you know, Theo, I did some games in Winnipeg, and always kind of had my eye on the junior A level on a full-time basis. Of course, a lot of broadcasters go through this league, as you know, in the SJHL. So when the opportunity came up to come out here and do it on a full-time basis, I jumped at it, and it's been a lot of fun so far. And the Bruins have a good team this year, and I'm pretty spoiled too with the rink here at Estevan at Affinity Place. It's a gorgeous facility, so it's going great so far.
Going great so far. Now I got to ask you, the attire. I've seen some pics. I mean, you got to look good behind the mic, but you don't get to be seen so much behind the mic. Is that something you had to get used to again, putting on the suit and tie, or you're totally cool with that?
Yeah, you know what? I've always been a guy who enjoys dressing up. I don't know, just something about it makes you, you look good, you feel good, right? And it's the old adage, Theo, you dress for the job you want, right? So so behind the mic, you're not seen on radio a lot, but I do a thing for the Jumbotron at all the home games too, where I am on camera. So that's been a lot of fun as well. So I got to make sure I look good for those.
I think ZZ Top said every girl's crazy about a sharp dressed man, correct?
That's what the saying is. Yeah. Who knows?
That is, yeah. So not only are you the voice of the Bruins, you said you're doing something in game as well. Are you an in-game host? Tell us what you're doing during the game then?
No, yeah, sorry. So I do all the games. All the road games are on the radio here, Rock 106, Golden West Radio in Estevan, and then most of the home games aren't. And the reason for that, I think that's pretty standard, is that a lot of people go to the home games. So we don't do every game on the radio, but I do call the home games on Hockey TV. And then I'll just do like an on-camera intro type thing that airs, that goes on the Jumbotron pregame. And then my full-time job is a news reporter. So I'm Monday to Friday at the radio station doing that first and foremost, but then I do all the road games, travel with the team, all that stuff.
So you're wearing several hats. You're doing a bit of PR. You're doing some Golden West stuff. You're doing the away games. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned the fact that the home games in Estevan are, I mean, it's not a closed captioned or it's a blackout. I mean, to tell you the truth, you ever been to Estevan? The population of Estevan isn't as large as people think. And they should fit a majority of those guys in the rink.
Well, it's actually 13,000 according to the official census. So it's a little bigger than you might expect. It does have a city feel to it. I think the rink fits about 3,000. So those crowds have been a little smaller to start off the year, just with all the COVID protocols and kind of all the vaccination restrictions and all that being worked out. But hopefully those crowds can get bigger and bigger leading up to the Centennial Cup next spring.
Got a shout out from my buddy Corey. Do you know who Jim Carr is?
He's an MLA in Winnipeg, is he not?
That too. But from a radio play-by-play persona, do you know who Jim Carr was? The play-by-play guy for the Charleston Chiefs, I believe, in Slapshot. So that's part of your repertoire. You're gonna have to learn that one, I think, Mr. Nolan. Just to give a shout out to my boy Corey. Good movie of ours. We love watching it. Next question I got to ask you: why Estevan? I mean, was it just the next job that was available, or is just opportunity knocks?
Yeah. The backstory is that I had a good friend from college, Rob Mann, who I went to Red River College with, who had this job. He got it out of school. He's a really talented guy. He got a job with the Prince Albert Raiders, so he was able to move up to the Western Hockey League. For 3 seasons, he was the Bruins play-by-play guy. 3 plus the shortened pandemic season. So when he got hired in Prince Albert, he put my name in here and put a good word in for me. And so that's kind of how it came about. I was fortunate enough to be offered the position. So it was a combination of knowing what I was coming into through Rob, and then just the opportunity to do play-by-play close to home. I mean, it's only about 5.5-hour drive from Winnipeg. So I still get a chance to go home for Thanksgiving. I was just back. Christmas, can go back for part of the summer as well. So that's really how it came about.
Yeah. The city of Estevan, 13,000, like you said. Have you been to Estevan before, prior to taking this position?
No, I have not. So they actually brought me out. I was able to come here, meet my current boss now, and got a tour of the station, and he showed me around a little bit and showed me the rink. And when I saw the rink, I thought to myself, "Boy, it's going to be pretty hard to turn this down." So I was able to come out and see it before accepting the job. But prior to it coming available, no, I had never been here. I'd been to Regina, which is about 2 hours north, in Saskatoon, but never this far south in Saskatchewan. We're only about, I think, 15 minutes from the border, so it's pretty far south.
No, I've been to Estevan a couple of times with some road trips with my pops back in the day. The Bruins this year, how are they tooling up for this championship run? Let's talk a little bit about their team, getting used to the season and whatnot, and what is the team looking like?
Yeah, the team's looking pretty good. They're off to a 4-2 start. As you say, that they're gearing up for the Centennial Cup, so they brought in a lot of guys. Michael Sarter, who a name you might be familiar with, he played for the Blues. He's from Winnipeg. Griffin Asham-Moreau is another Winnipeg kid, so pretty good Manitoba contingent. They got a great goaltender in net, Boston below us. He has WHL experience. So they're off to a good start. And obviously, it's whenever you're hosting the Centennial Cup, I think you have players that have that in the back of their mind. And I know for a fact some of the guys who were recruited in the offseason came just because of that, to be a part of that tournament. So they're in first in their division. They've got a tough homestand coming up here against some northern teams. Melfort will be here tomorrow night, and they're the best team in the league so far, so that'll be a good test. But they've got a solid team. I think they'll do well. And they know they're going to be at the Centennial Cup as the host team, regardless of how they do. But I can tell you that they're focused on getting there and earning their way there too by winning the SJHL playoffs. So they've got a good team. They're a lot of fun to call. They've got a lot of good, offensive guys, and we'll see what happens. It's a competitive league, lots of parity, but so far so good.
You mentioned the word parity, and there's one distinct difference is the SJ compared to the MJ is the number of 20-year-olds you can keep on a roster. and the maturity of a team is a little bit more seen in Saskatchewan as opposed to Manitoba. Have you noticed that in terms of how you've watched the different junior A leagues play out in the last several years?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a difference. You're right. I think the Saskatchewan league is a bit more of a heavier league, right? A little more physical. There's been a lot of penalties early on in the preseason and early in the regular season too. I think there's been a fight in almost every game, so it's a bit of old time hockey. But the MG is a great league too, right? I think cross junior A, it's a pretty good product. And like you mentioned, there's a lot of older guys. There's a lot of guys who have WHL experience. I mentioned the goaltender below us, but and not just WHL, just major junior. Mark Rumsey is, in my opinion, probably the best forward on the team. And he played in the QMJHL. So they're able to attract guys from across the country who come from varying backgrounds. But yeah, so far, I think that's the main difference between Saskatchewan and Manitoba is it's just a little bit of a heavier league, a little bit more physical. I actually asked Michael Sarter about that very question. I asked it to him. He obviously spent some time with the Blues. He led the MJHL in scoring, and I kind of asked him what the differences were. He said not much. So I guess it's kind of give and take. Everyone's got their own opinion. He would know because he played in both leagues. So, but you know what? So far, it's a pretty good product all in all that I've seen here in Saskatchewan.
Certainly just the beginning of the season, 6 games in, like you mentioned. I got to ask you one question. It's more, because it's, Centennial Cup year and there is a berth already there. Was that more of like a selling feature for not only yourself to take this position, but also to attract players perhaps later on or during the season for the coaches to realize they've got some holes to fill or they got to retool somehow so that they're able to put their best skate forward come championship run?
Yeah, so first for me personally, it was a factor for sure. It's a big tournament, as you know. It's the Junior A Championship across Canada. It's a big event. It'll be great for the city. There'll be a lot of people here during that week in May. I believe TSN brings in a crew for it to broadcast the finals. So, from a broadcasting perspective, just to be a part of that and maybe to do some, extra coverage for the station here, meet some of the broadcasters, some of the coaches from the other leagues. It really is going to be a really fun event to be a part of, and lucky to have that opportunity in my first year here in Estevan. And I think from a recruiting perspective for the team, like I mentioned earlier, I think some guys. Cade Runke is an example who the Bruins just brought in recently. He played for Moose Jaw in the Western Hockey League. Just speaking to the coach here, Jason Tatarnik, he said that was one of the things that one of the reasons he decided to come here. So I think it is a factor for some players. But I've also talked to Jason about the recruiting during a year like this, and he said people may think it's easier to recruit, but he doesn't think it is. Just because you're hosting the Centennial Cup, that's not sometimes that's not good enough to bring the players in, right? So he doesn't think it's necessarily easier to recruit during a year when you're hosting the Centennial Cup, but I think some players definitely had it in their mind, and it's a good opportunity to be a part of for their hockey careers, and obviously, like I said, from a broadcasting perspective, it's a great opportunity as well.
No doubt, Nolan. We look forward to hearing your voice throughout the regular season with the Bruins. Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about that year that was missed last year and how important it is for the community in Estevan. Stay with us here on the ice. Back here on the ice with Nolan. Nolan, I got to ask you this other question here. For the 20-year-olds that missed out last year, not being able to play, what does it mean for this crop of players that will age out to finally get on the ice and say, thank whatever you have to thank to be able to play this great game you love and have a chance to do this again?
Yeah, I think it's important. Obviously, unfortunate for some of the guys that aged out last year with how it went down. That was really a cross Canada thing, right? Cross world thing for sports. And I know that the guys who are playing in their senior year this year are thankful for the opportunity. And it's just the overall excitement, I think, for them of getting back to the sport they love, right? After a year off with not even being really able to skate at times last winter, right? I think the development took a hit too. I've spoken with some of the coaches about that as well. Just being a year behind in their development hurt as well. So I think just to be back on the ice for the players is a great thing, and we all hope that it can be a full uninterrupted season, right? Because obviously the pandemic is still very much here and still a factor, and everyone still feels that. But I think for the players, they've settled back into that routine that they're used to. And then obviously just for the fans to be able to come to, here at Estevan Infinity Place, just to see live hockey again, because they didn't see that last year. And it's not just the Bruins, it's the Bears, the AAA team here, all the minor hockey in Saskatchewan as well. It's full speed ahead right now. And also the Big Six Hockey League is another league that's starting up here. That's a senior league. So they're kind of all getting back on the ice. And like I said, we just hope that all the games can get in and that we have as close to a normal season as possible.
We hope to have a close to normal season as possible. Absolutely. Talk about Melfort coming in this upcoming weekend. Strong team. From the opponents you've seen play against the Bruins, which one do you think is going to pose a bit of an issue, or is it one that we haven't seen yet, Nolan?
Yeah, so most of the games that Estevan has played has been within their own Viterra division. So that's Weyburn, Yorkton, and Melville. They haven't actually played Melville yet because of a COVID situation involving the Millionaires. But Weyburn's their number one rival. They've beaten them both times here in the regular season. I think the Bruins, and they've also beaten Yorkton twice. They're 4-2, as I mentioned off the top. So I think they match up very well against their own division. They play their division rivals 10 times. So that's a lot of games, a lot of points. I think there's a lot of good teams up north. Humboldt beat them at the SJHL showcase up in Warman last week. Larange also beat them. So those are two non-division opponents. Melfort's off to a 7-2-1 start. So they're the best team in the league right now. Humboldt looks strong. As I mentioned, Nipawin's off to a good start as well. And so, I think this is a really good test on Friday night. Flin Flon as well. It looks like to have a good team, and Flin Flon's here next week. So early on, if I had to say, make a bit of a prediction, it's that the Bruins will do well against their own division. But there's going to be some stiff tests from teams further north in Saskatchewan, that pose a real challenge to the Bruins. And, we're about to see that starting Friday night. And just because you win your division, that you don't really get anything for that. It's 1 through 8, Theo. It's 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 3, 6, 4, 5 in the playoffs, but you don't get third just for winning your division, right? It's still based on overall points in the standing. So the Bruins might beat up on their own division a little bit throughout the year, but there's going to be some other really good teams who are near the top of the standings as well.
It's interesting you say that, because when you talk about playing within the division and then playing, like you said, the northern teams that could be stronger, could be heavier, potentially more mature, you get used to playing those divisional teams 10 times. And that could prove to be a benefit or not so much when it comes to playoffs, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's also the travel too, right? Like Weyburn's only about an hour from here. I think Yorkton, Melville's about 2 hours. Yorkton might be 3. So you don't have to go that far to play within your own division. But we're going up to Battlefords and Humboldt in a couple of weeks, and that's a 6-hour trip about, right? And then you got to stay overnight. So that takes its toll on you as well. And they already experienced that going up to Warman, being out of their routine a little bit. That's a 5-hour drive, staying in a hotel overnight. So the dynamic changes a little bit. So it's just an overall bigger challenge, I think, playing some of those northern teams, especially for the travel component for Estevan, who's by far the furthest team south in the province, in the league. And so, to have to go up and play those teams, it's a real challenge. And like I said, they play their own division. I guess it's 30 games total, 10 against each team, right? So that's a significant part of the season, 58-game season. But there are, those other teams are going to be a challenge as well, for sure.
Did you have a chance to check out the showcase last weekend, Nolan?
I was with them in Warman near Saskatoon. Yeah, it was a great event. Yeah.
So what would some of the takebacks for you that weekend to be? Not only rubbing shoulders with potentially the other play-by-play guys, but just seeing the vibe in that rink and watching great hockey finally.
Yeah, the Legend Center in Warman, great facility, really cool spot. Our hotel was right across from the rink, so you could just walk across. Met some of the other broadcasters for the first time. We do a weekly podcast with them. That's a lot of fun as well, but I got to meet them in person. And yeah, there's just some camaraderie that goes along with that. And it's neat to be part of a neutral site event, right? And so that was kind of the first time I had experienced that as a junior A broadcaster. So it was really cool. The Bruins didn't play as good as they would have thought, but it's also an opportunity to check out, some of the other teams that are in attendance. And, it's one game after the other. They packed 3 or 4 or 5 games into one day. So into 2-3 day events. So, and it's early in the year. Like I was a bit surprised by that. It was essentially only 2 weeks into the year, and it's a big event for scouts from across the continent to come and see these guys as well. And then I actually saw Mike Babcock was there as well. He's from Saskatchewan here. So there's some big names in the building too.
Head coach is Saskatchewan, University of Saskatchewan, I believe still. I think they're going to have a season this year. I think he's looking forward. Maybe he's doing some recruiting after the fact. No, I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. He's the head coach of the Huskies now. So absolutely. I think some of the guys go from junior A to playing CIS, right? And that's kind of the last hurrah for their hockey careers. So he's got his eye on them, I'm sure.
No doubt. Now we talked about the showcase from last week. Manitoba and Saskatchewan are doing their showcase in January of 22, hoping that the season continues on. This is the first time it's been in Manitoba over the last couple of years. Usually it's in Saskatchewan. What are your thoughts on having cross-provincial showcases like this? And should we, enjoy them and embrace that idea?
Yeah, I think it's a cool concept. I think it's at Seven Oaks Arena, right in Winnipeg. They just built that facility not too long ago as well. So I'm hoping I can get to cover that, but I don't know because it's kind of select players for that event, right? Like not every team goes. I don't know a ton about that, but I think it's cool. Like the overall concept, I think. And of course, the Saskatchewan Manitoba winners of the league face off every year, right? As you know, so I think, I if it was me, I think alternating it between Saskatchewan and Manitoba every year is a good idea, and obviously, it gives different people in both provinces a chance to see some of the top players from each league. So. I think that's coming up in January, and I'd love to go back and cover it. We'll see what happens, but I think Winnipeg's a great place for it too. So it should be a good event. I'm looking forward to watching that, or maybe even seeing it in person. Yeah,
we hope to see you in Winnipeg. It'd be nice to see the Bruins in action in Winnipeg. It'd be nice to see how that works in terms of matching up against the NJ teams prior to Centennial Cup. And quite frankly, how is Estevan as a community getting ready for championship week?
Yeah. I mean, it's still a ways off, but I know the Bruins just had their annual general meeting earlier this week, and that was a point of discussion as well. So I believe you can get in touch with the Bruins front office about getting tickets already. So if people are interested in coming to see that, they can do that. So I think from a team perspective, the Bruins are really just focused on the season right now and winning hockey games and doing well in the SJHL. But I know obviously the community and the Bruins organization at large is looking ahead to that. And obviously, the timing worked out well for them because, with the pandemic, it was supposed to be in Portage a couple of years ago, right? And that got canceled. So that was unfortunate. So Estevan's a great place for it. I think, from what I know, from what I've heard from the other broadcasters, haven't been to every rink yet in the league, but people tell me it's the nicest in the league. And so I think it's a great place to have it. There's some hotels nearby. It'll be an exciting week, and again, I'm just looking forward to being a part of it. I know the team and the players and the fans are all looking forward to it as well.
Well, I will say the SJ has now stolen 2 of my comrades behind the mic, yourself and as well Mr. Rory McGoran up in Humboldt. Have you had a chance to chat with them in person, or at least converse with them over the fact that you now are both in the same league and doing what you love doing?
Yes, I did have a chance to meet Rory, and I was looking forward to it because I knew he was out here, and I knew he moved out here a few years ago. Obviously, he's got a great opportunity there with the Broncos, and I think he does some work for the league as well. They had the TV broadcast going at the showcase as well. So he's a great guy, and that's right. You know him as well. So I haven't had a chance to meet him, and I'm looking forward to going up to Humboldt later this month, and that'll be kind of the first. I guess the second game between the Broncos and the Bruins. But looking forward to seeing their rink as well because I've heard great things.
Absolutely, no, and it's a great community to have, with considering everything that's gone over the last couple of years, to get hockey back in there for the small communities, no doubt. Now, the favorite part of the show I like to have, Nolan, you haven't experienced this part because you haven't been on the ice. We've done our normal, 8 to 12-minute conversations discussing podcasts and monthly reviews and updates and everything with Sport Manitoba. We call this the Fast Five, and it's 5 questions I get to ask that person that I'm interviewing or having on my show. And First thing that pops into your mind. There's no right answers, no wrong answers, just Nolan's answers. How's that sound?
It sounds great. I'll do my best.
Okay, question 1. The one thing you miss most about not being in Winnipeg right now?
Oh, wow. I'd say family and friends, but I'd also say going to the lake, because that's one of the main differences between Manitoba and Saskatchewan is, we're very lucky in Manitoba to have kind of lakes and the southern part of the province versus here, not so much. So I definitely missed going to the cabin. I'm going to try to get back out there one more time here later this month if I can squeeze it in. So I'd say family and just kind of the activities that I've grown accustomed to back home in Manitoba.
First thing you did when arriving in Estevan?
I guess I went grocery shopping. That was after the whole move-in happened, and then the next morning I went grocery shopping because I needed to stock my fridge.
Okay, so you went grocery shopping. Where is your favorite place to have someone cook for you? Your favorite restaurant in Estevan? Do you have one yet?
Yeah. So I've been to a few. I think the one I enjoyed the most so far was Mr. Mike's. It's a steakhouse. And I kind of made a fool of myself because I didn't know we had one in Winnipeg. And I told the server, "Oh, we don't have these in Winnipeg." I was like, "Well, yeah, you do." Turns out there's one in Portage too. I grew up in the north end of Winnipeg. It's in the south end. So Mr. Mike's Steakhouse chain. It's a bit of a higher end place, but the food is excellent.
You grew up in the north end of the city. Is there like one of those classic burger joints with the Greek meat sauce on a Fat Boy special in Estevan?
Yeah. There's Prairie Donaire.
Okay.
So I don't know if you know Baraka in Winnipeg, but Prairie Donaire, Baraka's in the north end. Prairie Donaire might also be a chain too, but that's the closest I've found so far.
Okay, so we've got that figured out. Number 4, what is the worst name you have to pronounce on the Bruins roster? The hardest one for you to pronounce, or if you have one?
Yeah. That's a good question here. There's not too many. You know what? Griffin Asham Morose is kind of a longer name, and so that kind of messes with my flow sometimes. But I know he's a West St. Paul kid, close to where I grew up, so I can't get his wrong. A lot of people say it Moroz, but it's Asham Morose. So those hyphenated names can cause some problems sometimes, and also the goaltender's name Boston Belois can be mispronounced too. So that's a bit of a tongue twister to have to say every time he makes a save too.
Absolutely. First time you met with the coach, what was his first impression of you, first impression of him?
Yeah, so I met him when I first came out here to see the town. Was it before? No, it was after I accepted the job. Obviously, I met him. Yeah, he was. I think he jokes with kind of every play-by-play guy as if he's not going to like you. He said, "Oh, I'm not going to like you," but he was just kind of kidding around, and he seemed kind of like a gruff guy at first. I thought he'd be a little, a man of few words, but he's actually more long-winded than I thought. He's a bit of a joker too. So I've enjoyed my interactions with him so far. I think he's getting to like me more and more. I hope.
Well, that's good to hear. I like to make sure you got enough time to spend there. Last question I have for you, Nolan, before we say goodnight. If you've gone ebbed and flowed, valleys, mountains to get to where you are today, what would be that one piece of advice you would tell people that or young students of this game, of play-by-play, that don't lose sight of their dream?
Yeah, it's a good question, Theo. I would say it's not always going to be a straight line. There's going to be kind of twists and turns along the way. I think if you really do want to pursue it and you enjoy it, then I would say stick with it. Just keep that goal in sight and be persistent, be aggressive too. Reach out to as many people as you can, tell as many people as you can what you want to do. And eventually you'll get the opportunities. It's a competitive industry, as you know. There's not a lot of positions that do come up, but I would say to anyone who wants to pursue it, do it. And anyone who does it knows that it's a lot of fun. Like I mentioned when I started, it's the best job in the world. That's how I feel, because it's a blast. You get to call hockey for a living, or, whatever sport you want to do. So I would say to those people, obviously get your education, and then, try to get your foot in the door and get more experience and try to work your way up. And it really is worth it in the end, I think.
Nolan, how's the voice after the first couple of games?
The voice is good. Yeah, no, it's been good. Don't have a cold yet or, anything like that. So that's good. And I get a lot of reps too, not just with the hockey, but just being on the air a lot, for the station and doing some live location stuff here in the community has been a lot of fun too. So it reminds me of my CJOB days a little bit when I worked in radio in Winnipeg and getting kind of back in that whole routine. So I've always really enjoyed it, and it's going great so far. Yeah.
Has not forgotten the routine. Happy to be calling the games for the Bruins. Nolan, thanks for joining me. Any last words you want to say before we say goodnight?
No, just thank you, Theo, for finding out where I was. I don't think I told you I was leaving. It kind of happened quickly. So
no, I was left in the dark, man. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, when I saw it on my social media feed, I was like, wait a second. How am I gonna? I'm gonna miss this guy every couple of months. It's not gonna be the same.
For sure, yeah. No, and I'll just say too, just thanks to everyone. Obviously, a lot of support back in Winnipeg from family, friends, former classmates, colleagues like that. They've been great. So it's good to touch base with you again, Theo. We'll have to do it again mid-season, maybe.
We shall, no problem. I think we look forward to seeing them maybe prior to the showcase. See who's invited, who's not invited. Talk about a mid-season review, Nolan. I think that sounds like a pretty good idea.
Sounds great, Theo.
Nolan Kowal with me, the host, the voice of the Estevan Bruins. Centennial Cup berth already in place because they're hosting it. Lucky them, but hopefully they get to be there with good reason. Thanks for watching here on the Ice ASTV. I'd like to thank our sponsors, as always, Doak Spoke Fuels, Case Financial Group, the Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, and Toby Hockey, bringing more goodness to the greatness. We will see you next week on Tuesday. Have a great evening. Take care of your friends, your family, your neighbors. Stay safe out there and enjoy that wonderful weather. It's going to be nice one more weekend. Take care and bye-bye for now. Welcome to Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, your world-class academic and hockey training facility created to maximize each student's athletic and academic potential. Blackjack Stewart Arena, home of the Buffalo, is inside the 46,000 square foot complex, as well as a curling rink and other facilities. The students have a unique combination of successful, well-rounded education at Pilot Mound Collegiate Institute and the professional hockey training in an encouraging community. The years of experience of on-ice coaching propel our students to the next level, both mentally and physically, in a professional environment.